What is up, YouTube? So I got asked a question on what I need to start tattooing today. So today what I'm going to do is break down and go through everything you need to start tattooing immediately. Okay, so there's three sections that are super important to go into having everything that you need to tattoo. That would be sanitation. So that'll be, everything you need to keep everything sterile and clean. The other would be your machines, the grips you need, cartridges, needle bars, depending on the type of machine you're using. And then the rest would be all the miscellaneous things that you don't think about, that you usually forget, but you end up needing for tattooing. So let's get started. So number one, we're going to talk about sterilization. This is super important, probably the most important thing that you need to make sure that everything is sterile when you are tattooing, because it could lead to infection and also issues with bloodborne pathogens. So the things to know before you need to kind of get into this would be, are you tattooing human skin? This would be super important if you are. If you are starting on fake skin, things like that, you don't necessarily need to get this right away, but you definitely need to know what you need to get eventually when you do start doing those things. Awesome. So Madacide, Cavicide, these are the chemicals needed to sterilize your equipment. Not necessarily your tubes and everything. You need to go through an autoclave process with those, unless you're using disposables. Most places use disposables now just because it's so much easier than having to clean your tubes and run them through an autoclave. So yeah, I definitely recommend using disposables. It's just so much easier for everyone. Next would be gloves. You need gloves. Gloves are super important. I use blue ones. Most tattoo artists like to use the black ones, just because it does not show all the blood and plasma and everything else, the ink. But I change them out so much just to make sure that they are clean that it really doesn't affect me too much. So yeah, you definitely want to get some gloves. Super important to protect yourself and your client. The next thing would be your clip cord covers, which are these. Super long, cover up your clip cords. Make sure you're keeping them clean and sterile. You don't want blood and plasma to get all over it because it's disgusting. So yeah, just wrap your stuff. You could also use these on pen style machines. Just slip it over and wrap it up with sports wrap. There's, I'm sure, a couple different names for this, but that's what I call it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. This is not sterile. You want to make sure you're wrapping your machine with this only for comfort. This does not protect your machine from bloodborne pathogens and all other stuff that you don't want to get on it. So yeah, wrap your machine. Another way to do so would be with barrier film. Barrier film, you just rip off a section. You can put over your machine, put over your power supply, whatever you want to. You can put over, and it sticks very well. It's super sticky. You can kind of stretch it out a little bit, go over everything. Yeah, super important to have. Let's go over the bottles first. Bottles for tattooing, a must-have. Some people use spray bottles. I like to use these squeeze bottles. They're just easier for me. Either work just fine. And then label them too. This is one thing that not a lot of people do, but you don't want to spray alcohol on a fresh tattoo when you thought it was soap. So label your bottles. It'll make things a lot easier. Bottle bags. So this kind of goes without saying. It's bags for your bottle. So they just slide over right like that. Keep them clean. Sterile. You can tattoo without having to get blood and plasma all over your bottle. So yeah, get some of these too. Cling wrap. Plastic wrap. So this I put over my station, wrap it around my armrest, my tray, everything. Some people use barrier tape as well, just to kind of hold it on. It acts like tape, so you can just tape it down. So yeah, cling wrap, that's what I use. Some people use other things like dental bibs they put down. I like plastic wrap. It wraps the whole thing and I don't have to worry about anything getting through at all. So now we're going to talk about machines. What do you need per what machine? It's kind of hard whenever you are first starting out to kind of get everything. So power supplies, these are super important. Two different kinds of power supplies right here. One is newer, this one's a super old one. Clip cord goes in here, foot pedal goes in here. Foot pedals, some people still use them, some people don't. With this power supply, you don't necessarily need a foot pedal at all. You just hit this button and it turns on. Or you could also plug in a foot pedal. So I'd recommend going with something like this just because it has a digital readout. You could clearly see what speed you're running it on, what voltage, and it does have the option to use a foot pedal or not, which is super cool. Next would be a clip cord. You need this to power your machine if you're using a traditional machine, or an RCA cord if you're using a rotary machine. So those are the two different kinds. Also, Cheyennes do run on a different type of jack that you get with the machine whenever you buy it, so that's something to think about as well. So let's get on to machines. So there's a ton of different machines out there, you know, traditional rotary pen style machines, and with some pen style machines there is no clip cord at all or RCA cord. They run on batteries. So that's another thing nowadays that they have that is kind of cool. But with some of them, they can be kind of tricky to learn on just because there isn't necessarily a voltage readout. You just kind of got to go by what your machine sounds like. So that is one thing to keep in mind if you're going for a pen style machine. Just do a little bit of research and try to figure out what works best for you. With an actual regular rotary machine, this is a Inkjecta. So you will get disposable grips. You will need these to go along with your cartridges. They are sterile, they come pre-packaged, and you want to make sure that the package is not ripped open at all because, you know, it is currently sterile. You don't want to touch this at all without gloves on whenever you are setting up. Super important. And this is what they look like on the machine. So your cartridge goes in right here and it just kind of slides in and tightens down. Now, some different machines have a different way for tightening them down, but this is also another thing that you want to get. Unless you have an autoclave and you're using that to sterilize, these are single use. When you are done, throw them away, use another one for your next client. And next, when it comes to the machine stuff, you either go with needle bars or cartridges. There are so many different brands of cartridges out there, just a ton. So I open these up. It has the needle size and date it was sterilized and the expiration date on the back. You can see that right there. I'm sure I'll go into more detail about these eventually. So yeah, we're just gonna say that. You can clearly see they're sterilized right there. And you will need these, a lot of them, for tattooing. You know, liners, shaders, a ton of different styles depending on what you're doing. A ton of different styles, a ton of different sizes. So get yourself some cartridges. And another thing I won't go into too much detail about because there are a ton of different brands out there and you kind of got to test out to see which one that you like the most, would be tattoo ink. Everywhere. Tattoo ink is super important. It's what you use to put into the skin to make a tattoo. Ton of different brands out there. Fusion, Eternal, Solid, the list goes on and on. So you definitely want to get a lining black, be it dynamic, whatever one you want to get. And then your colors, if you are doing color. If you're just starting out with black and gray, you could just start out with that and move on from there. But ink is a big deal. Awesome, so now that we've gone through all the fun stuff, now we're going to talk about all the little things that people forget that you need to tattoo. We'll start out first with how you make your stencil. So you're going to need transfer paper. You could use this with a stencil machine, Thermofix machine, or you could use just a pen and trace over to make your design. I like this brand a lot. I wouldn't go off Amazon just because they have some knockoff brands that do not hold up as well. And with tattooing, your stencil is super important. You want to make sure that it is on there perfectly and holds up through the whole tattoo. So how to transfer that onto the skin? Stencil Stuff. I like green gold. It's a little bit thicker. It just works out better for me. There's a lot of different brands out there, Stencil Stuff. Yeah, just a ton. So try a couple, see what works best for you. I'd recommend trying this for sure. And before you use your razors are super important as well. You want to make sure that you shave the area, and shave the area bigger than what the tattoo is. You don't want hair being around your tattoo, and also at least for a better picture if you don't have a bunch of hair laying everywhere. I recommend getting in bulk, but you could also get these pretty much anywhere. So buy them, they're cheap, and they're really important. Before you do use the razors, you want to make sure that you clean the area with Isopropyl Alcohol. Super important. I put it in a spray bottle, spray everything down, then shave the area. We'll get to the big one. Paper towels. There's a ton of paper towels out there, and they are not created equally. Some paper towels are super thin, they'll rip when you're tattooing, so get a good paper towel. You know, it makes it a lot easier for you. Some people like to use these shop towels, which I've seen many artists use them. They're really thick. I don't like them because they are very, very thick and a little rough, so they could kind of traumatize the skin a little bit more, so I don't use these at all. Get some nice paper towels. Ink caps. These are the big ink caps. You know, they come in huge bags, they're cheap. There's also 3 different sizes, maybe 4. You want to make sure that you're getting a size that will hold your needle. So with liners, it's not really a big deal. You could use a small one. But if you're using different size mags, you want to make sure before you start the tattoo that they will fit inside your cap, because you don't want to be trying to tattoo, go to dip, and your needles hit the side, because then you're going to have to replace your needle because it could leave a barb. And you just don't want it to happen in front of your customer. It's just super embarrassing. So just make sure you think about that. To use for your tattoo and to kind of hold down your ink caps, there's a couple different things you could use. There's A&D, Vaseline, Purple Glide, Green Glide, a ton of different stuff out there. But you use this to put down on your stencil. It just makes it cleaner for you, easier to pull the ink off the skin. It doesn't beat up as much and smear everywhere. So yeah, get some of this stuff. It'll definitely save you. Popsicle sticks. This is a clean way to get it from the can or the bottle onto your station without having to touch it. And make sure you wear gloves the whole time during your setup and when you tattoo. Even when you're putting on the stencil, when you're shaving, just wear gloves all the time. So get yourself a ton of gloves because you're going to go through them for sure. Rinse cups. Super important to have rinse cups. You'll use these whenever you are doing color, even black and gray, stuff like that. You'll dip your needle into this, which will clean it off. So rinse cups, you could get them at the dollar store, pretty much anywhere, Amazon, online. Yeah, so you'll definitely need these as well. Whenever you are filling these up, another thing for the list would be distilled water. You do not want to use tap water, bottled water. All those things contain minerals. Distilled water goes through a process to kind of make it as clean as possible. It is not sterile because of the bottling process, but it is your best option to use with tattooing. So distilled water. And the last thing would be, if you are first starting out, you want to make sure you are starting out with these. And they are fake skin. You could get these off Amazon, a lot of different places online. I recommend Real Skin. And by no means are they sponsoring me to say this, but I've tried a couple different ones, and these are the best in my experience. The closest thing to actual real skin that you could get, so I'd recommend getting some of these. That way, you don't have to start on people. Whenever you are first starting out, there's a lot to learn. The easiest way to learn these things to get the fundamentals down would be practice on these. That way, whenever you are comfortable with everything that you're doing, then you could transfer on to actually tattooing people. And then with that, all the sterilization stuff comes into play. The Madacide, Cavicide, whatever you need to do to have everything clean and sterile is super important. So this is a list of everything that you need to start tattooing today. I went through this list and made sure everything is on it. And if you need to recap so you can make a list of everything that you need to buy, I will make the list down below so you can just clearly see everything that you need. So I hope this was able to help you out, get everything you need, and make a list to order everything and start tattooing. If this helped you out at all, and if you would like to hear more from me, leave a like down below and follow for more videos.